do this.
It's the Back Row Talk Show.
Hey, everybody. Welcome again to the Back Row Talk Show. I'm pretty excited today. I've got Chris Curran, the mastermind behind the Podcast Engineering School and the Podcast Engineering Podcast
Show, yes.
show, the PEPS, as I like to refer to it. So, little intro to why I'm doing this with Chris is when I got the great opportunity to come on to your show, Chris. It turns out that you're a Tool fan.
Yeah.
And that's like that goes straight to my heart. Because if I meet a Tool fan, and even if I think they're an absolute tool, I still love them.
Yeah.
I still love them.
Totally.
So we didn't, the purpose of that show is a little different. So we didn't dive deep into the Tool rabbit hole, so to speak. But Chris, if you want to take a minute to talk about your show and then transition into why Tool, why Tool is, I don't know if you told me they were your favorite band, but you made it pretty clear that they're up there for you. So I'll let you take it from there.
Okay, yeah. So you were on my show, episode 176 of the Podcast Engineering Show, and literally, it's probably about halfway through the episode, I think I may have mentioned, or you mentioned Tool, that you were a fan of Tool, and I was like, dude, they're my favorite band too. So it was like in the middle, it was totally unplanned, and so anyway, that's why we're doing this now. But yeah, I would have to say Tool is my favorite band. I mean, back in the day, I would have said Metallica, but you know, after everything they've done after, you know, and Justice for All, probably it's great. It's all good stuff, sort of. Well, maybe the last 20 years haven't been great, but
yeah, I agree with that. And I'm a big Metallica guy too. But you're right. They tailed off pretty steeply after And Justice for All, as far as their classic sound goes.
Yeah, I mean, the Black Album, of course, well, that's I think their best-selling album, and it is a great album.
It is.
But it's definitely different than what came before that.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, I just made the decision, recently, not the decision, I sort of just admitted to myself that Tool is my favorite band, and I also decided what my favorite album is, and it is a Tool album.
Oh, nice.
My favorite album of all time.
Oh, I'm excited.
Yeah. So today we're talking about Fear Inoculum, correct?
We are, but is that where you were going with your favorite album?
No.
Okay. I didn't think so, because it's a rare occurrence to find a Tool fan who doesn't, think their best album is back in the catalog.
Right. Yeah. I mean, so for me, it's Anima. I mean, you can't. I recently listened to some of the songs off there, and it's like, when you hear one or two songs off that album, you're like, oh my God, this is just tremendous. This is like Tool in their prime. And then you hear like another song. And it's like, when you look at the songs on that album, it's mind boggling, dude. It's like, it's amazing.
It is. It's definitely, see, my problem with this band in particular is they keep making me think about what my favorite album is from them. So I mean,
right.
they constantly keep me on my toes. But I'll throw a little quick backstory. Like, I don't know how you were introduced to Tool and what made you think the world of them. I'm straying off already. So by
the way, I got a good story for you how I got into them. So yeah,
I'm excited for that. So let's actually go forth with that, because I was kind of getting to that point anyways. I am interested in why Tool, and the question I was getting ready to toss at you that just melds right into it. Does your background in music production, I know you don't dabble in that as much as podcast production now, but is part of the reason their production value?
I mean, I think so. I mean, their production value is always really good, but for me, it's just the sound of the band and the specifically the drumming, especially back then, because I was drumming in bands, and I was like, Danny Carey is just the greatest drummer. I loved his drumming. So, but I actually belonged to one of those. Remember those? What was it called? Something House, where
Columbia House.
Columbia House.
Yeah.
Right. You get like 10 CDs for a penny.
Yeah.
And then like over the next 3 years, you got to buy like 3 or
500.
4 CDs,
Yeah.
which wasn't bad. Anyway, I did
That was
that.
good.
And I don't know what happened, but literally one of the CDs that got shipped to my house, which I didn't ask for, I didn't even know existed, was Anima. It showed up at my house, and it's so weird that this happened. I literally freaked out because I didn't order that. And I called the company and I'm like, "No, you're taking this back. I didn't order this." And I sent it back. I never listened to it. I never even unwrapped it. And how funny is it that probably within 2 or 3 years after that, or even 1 year after that, I came across Tool and I started really liking them. And then I was like, "Oh, isn't that funny how it's like the universe shipped my favorite album to my door, and me, like an idiot, was like, I didn't order this. You can't do that." And you know what I mean?
What's
It's
going
funny.
on with this white square with squigglies on it? Yeah.
Well, it was actually had nothing to do with the album. It was more to do with them. Just
Yeah.
like I'm supposed to buy albums from you. You don't just send me a random album that I don't know what it is. So I sent it back. That's so funny.
That's kind of that's actually a pretty good Tool story, because a lot of Tool fans, they get into the spiritual thing, they kind of get into the, different meanings of life, and the universe decided you needed that album.
Right?
Nice.
And I pushed it away.
For how long?
Oh, I don't know. Like I said, probably. I mean, look, I probably around 1999 or 2000, I was in a band and we did a cover of Anima, the song Anima. And that's a doozy to cover, by the way.
Oh, I'd imagine. I pray you have a recording of that somewhere.
No.
Ah, come on.
No, but so here's the thing. We were more of like a blues rock band. Like we weren't a heavy band, and our guitarist was not a heavy guitarist. So it was good. It was really cool live. People really appreciated it. But I mean, it's not like it's not like it was the best cover song ever in the universe or anything like that.
So mine's kind of weird. Yours is kind of weird. Mine's a little weird in a different way. Like I had a certain female who's just a friend, platonic only, that influenced my music pretty heavily, because I was like 12, 13. I was rocking out to Warrant's Cherry Pie album way too much. And this girl actually introduced me to a lot of the 90s stuff that started hitting, the Nirvanas and Pearl Jams of the world and all that. And she was a big Tool fan. So I was a Christian boy, kind of forcibly, and I went through 6 or 7 copies of Undertow, because it was just dark and brooding. And I don't know if you're familiar with the hidden track, like the Let the Rabbits Eat Carrots thing. Do you remember that on Undertow?
Yeah, the hidden track. Yep.
Yeah, so that made me uncomfortable as a small, forced Christian boy. And I snapped that tape over and over, like, no, this is bad. I need to quit listening to this. It's evil. Naive 12-year-old kid. And I couldn't fight the urges much longer. So once I started growing up and had a mind of my own, I was like, it's not so evil. It's fine. But yeah, I had never heard anything like them, and I still haven't to this day. And I guess I'm glad, because once you really think about it, Fear Inoculum, 13-year gap, a lot of people are gone. A lot of Tool fans didn't get to hear Fear Inoculum. So
Right.
I think I've talked about it a little too much, but I promise anyone that listens to this show, this is it. This is the last time that I center an episode around Tool. So anyways, Fear Inoculum, we waited 13 years. We've got it now. We've had it for 7 months roughly. And Chris, what were your initial thoughts on the album? I'm sure you were anticipating it like I was. I was counting down the days. I was absolutely pumped, because 13 years is a long time to wait for something you really enjoy.
Yeah, and the last couple years, there's been so many rumors, and it just was like, oh, it's coming out, no, it's not, and oh wait, it's going to come out, and no, they're in the studio, and then there was a fire in the studio, and all these things we hear from what is it, toolband.com? Is that the website? Yeah. It's so cool that they have a community that keeps the whole fan base up to date on news. It's pretty cool. But yeah, I was really looking forward to it. And the first two songs I heard were those two songs that were released on YouTube from a live show.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I avoided those. I didn't want to ruin the album experience. So I actually did not listen to those till after.
Oh, wow. Yeah, no, when they came out and it was like, yep, this is a new song, I was like, no way. And I listened to it and I was like, this is really great. I do want to mention, before I forget to say it, that I, as a fan of music, in general, I'm pretty easygoing. Like, if a band I like puts out an album and it's good, I'm happy. Like, but some people, especially with this album from Tool, some people heard this and they're like, oh, it's nothing new. They're recycling riffs. And like, some people are actually very disappointed. And like,
yeah,
I don't understand how you could be disappointed. Like, it's very good at minimum. And so it might not have been what you expected. It might not be better than another album of theirs that you like better, but it's really good, man. So like, for me personally, I'm easygoing. I enjoyed, like, my first impressions were that I really liked it and I enjoyed it. And so those are my first general impressions.
Yeah, and I saw a lot of that as well. And actually, I kind of veered on that side of things once I heard Fear Inoculum when it was announced, and released as a single. I thought, like, this makes me really happy because I'm easygoing with music too. Like, unless it's downright awful, if a band sounds like what I know and love about them, I'm happy. So I was going to be happy if it was familiar. I was probably going to be happy if it strayed in a new direction. But I heard Fear Inoculum and I thought, yeah, like they may have overdid the riffage on it too much, especially at the end. But that was just a first impression. Now that's one of my favorite tracks off the album. But yeah, I mean, they did. Sure. They do sound a little bit, the same. There's nothing new, but it's more refined and it's just a little more, I don't know. It kind of 10,000 Days Part 2, which I'm fine with, completely fine with.
Right.
So I'll say the one disappointment was the fact that when you break it down to the meat and potatoes, it is basically 6 new songs. That's really the only thing that disappoints me. Even though 6 songs gives us roughly an hour of listening, which is great, that the only thing I wish I had a little more of is a few more songs. Like maybe 10. Give me 10 songs.
Yeah, I'm actually okay with the number of songs because I like these monster long songs.
I do too.
I love. Yeah, right. But so look, I mean, you can only fit so many minutes of audio on a CD and stuff. Yeah. So like, and the quality of it and the vibe of it, like, I mean, I would love more songs, don't get me wrong, but like, I'm okay with what's there.
Yeah. I've learned to accept it. Cause like I don't know what I'd do with a 4-minute Tool song at this point. I have no idea what I'd even do with it. Like I would just be disappointed that it was over. So the fact that they took, cause I think my favorite track off, I always pronounce it Anima, even though it's not what it's pronounced, but Anima, one or the other.
Yeah.
Third Eye, probably my favorite track off of that. And it's like 13 minutes.
Yeah.
So yeah, the fact that all the songs are lengthy, that makes me happy. I just, as a selfish Tool fan, I was like, man, could you squeeze me a couple more? Maybe, like Chocolate Chip Trip is cool, but
yeah,
maybe another song with some singing and the other instruments, even though that has grown on me as well. But from the time you heard it 7 months ago to now, has anything changed about the album for you? That's kind of where I'm at on this podcast and doing some reaction videos, going through every song. I kind of started that a few weeks ago, but do you stand anywhere different now as opposed to when it was released? Did it grow on you like Tool albums do, or is it kind of your excitement level stayed the same?
Well, so when I first heard it, I really liked it. And then it was, of course, it's always nice because I'm also a musician. It's always nice to do a lot of critical listening to Tool songs, especially with the odd time signatures, just to figure out the odd time signature and then follow it, because the beauty of Tool and their odd time signatures, especially with Danny Carey on drums, they'll be playing in an odd time signature, but you can tell that when they rehearse, they get so comfortable with an odd time signature, then he starts to do these ridiculous fills within the odd time signature. And like, so at first when you hear it, like it's sort of confusing because you just hear this guy just going off and you're like, I mean, it has a nice flow and a nice bounce, but at the same time, you don't really catch it. So when I first heard the album, that's when I was really listening critically, almost as if, like, if you were going to put me on stage with a drum set and be like, okay, play along with Tool. Like, as a drummer, I always think that way. Like, I want to know how to drum the song. So it was cool figuring all that out. But over time, well, I will say one thing that's happened to me with this album, which happens to me pretty much with every really great album, is when you first hear it, you sort of have your favorite song, and then like that'll be your favorite song for like a month or two, and then then another song will be your favorite song for like a month or two, and then another song will be your favorite. So that definitely happened with this album. I would say right off the bat, Pneuma was my favorite.
Yep, I'm with you.
Then it was Descending, and then it was Tempest. And now it's, yeah, I mean, I listen to Tempest so many times now. Even on our, I do a live stream with the Podcasters Lounge. It's our Facebook group.
Yeah.
And last night, I literally played Tempest, the whole song, on the stream because Scott Sakura, who was on there with me, he had never heard it, and he's into metal and stuff. And I was like, dude, you haven't heard Tempest yet? And I'm like, it won a Grammy for the best metal song. And he's like, he's not like a huge Tool fan, but like he definitely appreciates them. So anyway, we listened to it, and anyway, so yeah, those have been like my favorite songs. One thing that's interesting, I saw this guy on YouTube. He did his top 3 songs off of this album, and you know what his number 1 favorite song was?
I'm gonna say Calling Voices.
Exactly, and I want to know from you. I can't wait to hear from you about your experience over time. But yeah, I couldn't believe that. I mean, look. It's a good song.
Yeah.
And by the way, when the drums kick in the middle toward the end ish, and the bass sound when it comes in loud and distorted, that is one of the most ridiculous bass sounds. And of course, by ridiculous, I mean awesome.
Right.
It's just a monstrous bass sound. I can't tell you how much I love that bass sound. It's so big. It's like, it's hard to, I can't even put words to it, but
no,
anyway.
It's one of those, and that's the, I could see people choosing that as their favorite because the buildup is a lot different on that one. You get a lot more soothing, melodic, Tool, and then, like you said, when that bass line drops in, the song just completely changes. So I could see that because I'm one of those Tool fans that I'm very much about the progression. So, do I love Opiate? Yes. Do I love Undertow? Yes. Do I love Anima? Yes. Anima is where it really gets good for me. And then my favorite album was Lateralis because I love the way they've progressed over the years and become more complicated, and the time signatures have gotten crazy, and like they've went from more of a straight hard rock to like this, way out there sound. And I really enjoy the way out there sound. So I was like you, Pneuma hit me like a ton of bricks. Like I heard Fear Inoculum and I jammed that out until the album came out, since they released that as a single, and that grew on me greatly. I was all about it. And then I heard Pneuma and I was like, what a perfect second track on the album. Like everything I loved about Fear Inoculum, they smacked me in the face with Pneuma and said, now listen to this.
Yeah.
So Pneuma was my favorite easily. Like I probably burnt myself out on that to an extent after having the album for a month or two. And then I'd say I probably moved on to Invincible. And then I moved on to Calling Voices. So that was my favorite. Right now I'm just now getting to the part where Descending is my favorite, because like you said, that's what Tool does. You'll get honed in on a song and it will just change every month or two. Like you listen to it in different ways. Like, you listen to it critically and excitedly the first time it comes out, and then once you've gave yourself a feel of the album, which for me takes a solid 6 months. Like, I will listen to it 6 months without even thinking, just enjoying, typically in my car, letting Tool take the wheel, so to speak. And after a while, then I break it down by instrument. So I start listening to just the bass. Like, I'll listen to the whole album and I will focus on just the bass, or I'll focus on just the drums, or focus on just the guitar. And that kind of made me realize, like, everybody kind of has their shining moment on this album. Like, each and every member of the band. And obviously I think Tempest is the shining moment for Adam Jones. Like, that's his Guitar God track.
Yeah.
And Danny Carey has multiple moments. Like, it was a Adam and Danny album to me. Like, Maynard kind of took a back seat in my opinion, but he still delivers a really solid performance. But I gotta say, and I want to see that live stream you're talking about, because I definitely want to watch you guys or hear you guys listen to Tempest. So if there's a way to point me in the direction to that after this is over, that'd be great. But I will say, and this pisses off a lot of longtime Tool fans, Tempest is my least favorite track on the album.
Right. For now.
I don't know. I don't see it becoming my favorite. And that's not because I don't love it. I do. But there's so much classic Tool in there, and where I'm a bigger fan of the more recent Tool than I am the old Tool. Like, I've grown with them, I guess, in a way.
Right.
Like, Tempest just doesn't quite hit me the same way as the other songs on the album.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, look, this is this is people perceiving art, and the perceptions are all over the place. The perceptions change. So, and it's flavors. Different people like different flavors. So it's totally understandable. Tempest, for me, okay, as a drummer, the fact that for after the first 5 minutes of the song, the whole song is basically it's in 21/16 time, which is insane.
Yeah.
But like, as a drummer, once you get into that and you can follow that. See, that's the thing. If you can't follow that time signature, then you never get into that groove. But if you can count it out, and it's not hard to count out, but it does take a while to get in that groove because it is so odd. Once you get into that groove, it's almost like you're in another world. So that's one thing. And the other thing is, like you said, Adam Jones on Tempest was, I mean, his solos and his riffs are unbelievable. It's just great, man.
And that's what's crazy. I put Tempest up there in the top half of their best songs ever. But to me, the album's so strong from start to finish that I don't know. Like, I made multiple posts on Twitter when I listened to the whole album, and I was like, Tempest is for every Tool fan. Like, there's a little bit of Opiate in there. There's a little Undertow. There's some Anima, some Lateralis, some 10,000 Days. It has a little bit of everything. And I almost feared that it was like a swan song. Like, hey, we're not bringing you another album, but here is a masterpiece for you with every bit of the sound that we've done over the past 30 years. Here you go. So I don't know if that's true, but that was just
well,
an
it's funny
assumption.
you say that, because a guy I know, Billy O, who has a show called The Billy O Show,
Mm-hmm.
he I think right after the album came out, he's like, that's it. This is their last album. They're done. And I was like, wait, what? Like, do you know any information? Like, why are you saying that? And he didn't really have any insider information. That was just more or less his opinion. But like you said, maybe it is their last album, right? Because you never know what's going to happen. I mean,
Yeah, you don't.
if anything happens to one of those members, it's over. Like,
Yes.
So
There's no replacing.
Yeah, there's no replacing.
No.
So-
Hopefully that's not the case, but we can't really foresee that in any way. But
Yeah, and the other thing is the 13 years, it's like, I mean, I still don't know the backstory about the whole stuff with all the record company and all that. Like, there's all kinds of shenanigans going on
yeah,
for years, and they were in lawsuits. I think I know that.
Yeah.
Do you know any further information on that thing? And are they past all that? That's my ultimate question.
I know that this was the last album on their record deal. So
Okay.
if there's any chance that we're going to get a new Tool album within 5 years, that's my hope. Like I've got the sad assumption that Tempest was a swan song, but then I also have this feeling that we might get another Tool album within 5 years because now they can go all Radiohead or all U2. I hate mentioning U2. That made my heart hurt. Not a fan. But anyways, they can go all Radiohead and just release something on their own now. So I'm kind of hoping that's the result we get. But the only thing I knew about the 13 years was, like you said, the lawsuit stuff. And I think Maynard did a lot of like really vague finger pointing at the rest of the members of the band, not in a hateful way, because I don't think he really cares that much when the album comes out. But I think it was sort of like, we just couldn't all seem to find the time to get together. And obviously it takes a long time to release an album. But I saw in one interview where he basically said the album was done 3 years prior to them releasing it. But the band itself, Adam, Danny, Justin, weren't really on board with the final product. Like they wanted to make it better. So I take it that all these songs have been in the pipeline and were basically all but finished 3 years ago. But I feel like maybe they took their time and refined them, and they did a hell of a job if that's the case. But yeah,
Right.
I just think they've all got a lot of things going on, and they just kind of let it play out a little bit. And I kind of understand that, because there's things I've wanted to do audio and podcast wise and YouTube wise that before you know it, like a year or two gets away from you, and you're like, shit, all I wanted to do was make a video about this certain mic, and it's a year later and I haven't done it.
Yep.
So
Yeah, and even a lot of the things Maynard mentions about how they do songwriting now, because it's basically like the three musicians write the song, and then Maynard got to the point where he was telling them, look, don't send me anything until it's done.
right,
Because
I saw that.
they would, they'd send him parts of tracks or unfinished music, and then he'd like spend a lot of time writing lyrics and melodies, and then they'd basically say, oh, no, we're not doing that anymore. It's all changed. And he got frustrated, and he's like, you know what? Forget it. Just when you guys have it done, give it to me when it's done. So I know that, I mean, I don't know what kind of internal band tension there is. I don't think there is.
I don't either.
As far as we know. But yeah.
I think they're comfortable with each other, but I'm sure they get aggravated with each other a little bit, but I'd say it's simple aggravation. I doubt anybody holds any kind of,
Right.
grudge or ill feelings, but I do hope we get more. I mean, that's, as a long-term Tool fan, it would definitely be nice to get more, because I can't think of another band that could release an album that I anticipated like Fear Inoculum. So
Yeah.
I
I just found out because I got tickets to see them in a few months here in Colorado Springs, and they just canceled all their dates through the summer. So.
I saw that. How many times have you seen them, if at all?
3 or 4. I can't remember.
Same.
I know I saw them like literally like 6 weeks after 9/11. I saw them. That was my first
wow.
time seeing them. Yeah. And that was on obviously Lateralis, the tour.
Yeah.
Which you said that's your favorite album, which of course, I mean,
It was.
when you
It
when you
was.
start an
It
album
was.
off with The Grudge, I mean,
Oh man. Yeah.
that I don't even need to hear anymore.
No, that was fantastic. And then, making it all the way through to Lateralis, and then, you basically feel like you're on drugs even though you haven't touched the stuff. So,
Totally.
but yeah.
So wait, you what this one Lateralis is not your favorite album? I thought
I'm very torn. I'm
Okay.
torn now, because I've listened to Fear Inoculum so much, and I'm okay with admitting that it might be my favorite album.
Right.
So I'm just very torn. I even went back and just to try to prove to myself, like, which one is it, buddy? So I listened to all of them, and I'm like, man, I don't know. Like it just depends on the day. Like there
Yeah.
may be a day where Anima resonates with me more, or, I've had my moments where 10,000 Days resonated with me a little more. It's just so hard to tell sometimes. Like every album kind of serves a purpose and a timeline in my life anyways. So it's tough.
Yeah, and it does change. Like I totally agree with that. Yeah, I mean, sometimes I think of it like if you were only allowed to have one Tool album for the rest of your life.
Oh, that's scary.
That's scary. Yeah, it's impossible. It's not just scary. It's literally impossible to decide that.
But that's a good way to look at it, because my instant thought was like, I don't know if I could part with Lateralis. So look at you go. You forced my hand.
Right? Yeah, I mean, it's like, hey, you got one. I would pick Anima because, yeah.
And see, I'd be very sad to not have that anymore. So it's, here I go again kind of thing. So,
Right.
But yeah, that's
one thing about Fear Inoculum I'd like to say too is that it seems like I want to say it seems like a more mature record, but it's not like stale or boring or lame. It's still Tool, it's still great, but it's like it just seems a little more maybe refined is a better word. Like it's like they could still be heavy and they could still punch you in the gut when they need to, but somehow it's a little smoother. Like
yeah.
Well, let me put it this way. When I was in high school in the late 80s, I was into, Metallica and Anthrax and Slayer, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And keep in mind, this is Metallica, late 80s Metallica, not Black Album and after, right?
Right.
So into some heavy stuff. And Tool, when they first came out, they had some really heavy stuff, like really heavy. Now they have some things that are really heavy, but it's not as like aggressive sounding, or it's just a little more polished or something.
Yeah.
So it has that power, but it's also, I don't know if it's just the way they present it, but like nowadays I can't listen to really, really heavy bands. I can't listen to Slayer anymore.
right.
Like I just can't. I feel like I've grown out of that, but I can still listen to Tool because it seems like they've sort of progressed along with me in terms of still being heavy, but being more mature about it or something. Does that make any sense?
No, it makes perfect sense because you're right. Like the attack was kind of full force in Opiate and Undertow. Like they just attacked you with their sound, and it was such a different, darker sound without being too tuned down, I guess. And now it's a little more stoner rock. It's a little more chugging. There's a little more chug to it than just attack, I guess. I don't know how else to explain it, but it does. If you listen to Fear Inoculum and then you go back and listen to Undertow or Anima, like, which there's a pretty big progression for me from Undertow to Anima, but you would be able to say like that one's got to be a newer, this one's got to be them being a little further along in life,
Right.
like you can kind of tell somehow. So, and that was kind of comforting too. Like I think of Tool as this band that I don't want them to try to stay in their late 20s or early 30s. Like I want to hear the progression in their music as far as like where they are in life. And I think we got that on Fear Inoculum for sure.
Yeah. One way I can tell, it's so funny. My wife she was born in India. She's Indian. And so she moved to the US as an adult, right? So she grew up in India and not into music at all. She probably didn't even hear like American or rock music or anything like that, right? So when we're driving in the car and I play Tool in the car, like the new album, again, because of the way it's presented or something about it, she can get into it. She can nod her head and she can hang with it. But like if I did play her some of the raw songs, let's say on Undertow, it has a whole different vibe and it's just like more nasty and like she doesn't like it as much.
And it's angrier.
I'm just saying my wife in a way is it's interesting to watch her reaction. That's what I'm saying.
And it's kind of funny that you said that, because I wanted to mention too, like we're seeing, I can't help but wonder if two things, which I'm going to give you a forewarning. I am just a slight conspiracy theorist. Just a little.
I'm more than that. So
Well, okay, then I'll admit that I am a little bit too. So I don't go super deep. Like, I just keep an open mind. But so we've got now we see all these reaction videos to these. I take it you're roughly 10 years older than me. I graduated in 99. Sounds like you graduated into the 80s or early 90s.
yeah, 90 exactly.
Okay,
Yeah.
and I graduated in 99. So I'm seeing all these people that I can only guesstimate are between 18 and 30 listening to Tool and reacting. And I'm seeing these people enjoy this music they've probably never been introduced to. And part of me wonders, did they wait? Like, were they thinking about a generational divide at all and like hitting a new territory of listeners? Because they did, whether they planned on it or not. Like, it's for that album to do what it has done and for it to like slay Taylor Swift basically when it came out, that's one thing, which is just nuts. But then also the album really fits the times we're living in right now. Like, Maynard's lyrics, they can go one of many ways, and I don't know if any of us will truly know the exact purpose for every song. But like, I listen to Fear Inoculum now, and it's just like hollowing compared to this situation that we're dealing with right now. Like, kind of the perfect album for the times.
Right. Yo, I was thinking about the lyrics too. Like, even the lyrics of Tempest are very interesting, and even Invincible as well.
Yeah. And Fear Inoculum. It just like, it's very, I don't know, immunity, contagion, just all these trigger words. And I'm just like, man, they, which it follows in the line of Tool lyrics, so to speak. But it's, like you said, it's a little more mature, in my opinion. Like the lyrics too, but it makes me think right now.
Yeah, and one way, maybe like calling it more mature or more refined is maybe the right way to say it is to say that the music now it's more, it's like art.
Yes,
it's more art.
Yeah,
Deeper art. Yeah,
yeah. You kind of feel a transition from like, metal, fringe, grunge to art rock by the time we get to Fear Inoculum. So
yeah, and the depth is what makes it. So first of all, the depth in rhythms with Danny Carey, like doing all these polyrhythms, and he doesn't just play straight 4 on the floor drum beat. You know what I'm saying? Like, his drum beats, it takes a long time to figure out even what he's doing, and then again with the bass. Same thing. Then the way the bass and the guitar work together, they've always been great at that. And then of course Adam Jones's guitar it's deep stuff. I mean, it's like, it's beyond just a couple riffs and some lyrics, and then Maynard's lyrics, they're deep.
Yeah.
So it's like a painting. When you go to an art gallery, if you stand in front of a good painting, you stand there for a while.
Right.
Like, you don't just look at it and go, "Oh, that's cool," and keep going. And that's how Tool is. It's like, you have to give it time and really be interested in it, and that interest allows it to unfold. And that's what makes it different than a silly pop song, which you can listen to it once, and by the end of it, you know the words and you know the rhythm, and then it's boring.
Right. I could not agree more. And you've got, Maynard's voice. I remember the reason I kind of dove into Tool to begin with was like, I've never heard a voice like this. Wait a minute. I've never heard a guitar sound like this. Okay, now I've never heard anyone drum quite like this. And then, I want to say I've never heard bass like that either. And I haven't, but there's something that really just stands out about Danny Carey's drumming, the sound Adam gets out of his guitar, and Maynard's voice is unlike anything that I've ever heard. So it's, and now Justin fits perfectly. Like, he's my favorite bassist easily. So there's nothing that compares to that for me now either. But somehow they took 4 pieces and created like the best art, at least for your ears, that I've ever heard. And that's kind of how I look at them and why they're my favorite band. And when people don't understand it, I don't get mad. I don't get upset. My God, YouTube will kill you if you don't like their music. But I totally get it. If it's not for you, it's not for you. Like, it just hits me on a deeper level. It's really hard to explain how they've even accomplished what they've accomplished with being so intimate with their fans just through their art.
Totally agree. And one of these reaction videos off YouTube was this woman reacting to The Pot it was her first time ever hearing Tool, and she listened to The Pot, and The Pot is on 10,000 Days, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And I gotta say, what I realized after watching her react to The Pot for her first Tool song ever was that's a great song to show people. That's a great first song to show people who have never heard Tool before, because it is more straight ahead. Most of it's pretty much all in 4/4 time.
Right.
And it's heavy. It's groovy. The vocal performance is awesome. The drums are it's Tool, but it's a more straight ahead Tool that the average person can hear it and understand 4/4 time and then digest it at least a little bit.
Yep.
So that was, I don't know. I was thinking, like, if anyone ever said, like, oh, I don't know anything by Tool, like, that might be the first song I tell them to go listen to, right?
I couldn't agree more, because that was for that time and that album, that was the perfect song to release as a single, because it was straightforward. It was, it was the perfect thing for a casual listener to get hooked in by. And I'll never forget 10,000 Days either, because I heard that album, and my friend Brian that I worked with, he, big time Tool fan right along with me. But we would listen to that album carpooling, because that's about the time we worked together, was that album. And I remember saying, like, man, this is Tool's blues album. And he looked at me, he's like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, don't get me wrong, like, it's hard rock, it's heavy, it's still Tool, it's still psychedelic, but also straightforward. I was like, but there's a certain element of like, somehow they've taken blues and turned it heavy. And he totally didn't understand that. And I was like, man, nobody quite understands what I'm thinking. And then I saw an article, and Adam Jones said it was their blues album. I was like, what the hell?
Wow.
Like that was really cool. Like, someone gets it. Someone knows how I'm feeling, and happens to be the guy that did the guitar work on the album. But yeah, the reactions are great. Like, I've watched, the voice coaches react to Maynard, and, people reacting to Fear Inoculum that have never heard them at all, and their minds being blown, and it's kind of validating, I guess. I'm like, see, I knew I wasn't crazy for loving this crazy ass music.
Yeah. So Fear Inoculum, I mean, I still listen to it. I find myself, so I produce podcasts pretty much all day, every day. So I'm sitting at my computer with my speakers, and I'm, mixing and working on producing podcasts. And so, but a lot of times at night, it's funny, pretty much ever since the album came out, it's almost like at night, I'll just come and sit here in front of my computer, and I'll just listen to music. Like, and I mean, of course I listen to music in different places and in different ways, from my phone in the car, but like sitting down in the studio and just really listening, it's like Fear Inoculum has sort of helped me get back to doing that more, because I don't know, like, I don't know how you feel, but when I was younger, dude, like, music was my life, man. I was always playing music. I buying albums, and like everything was music. And as an adult, sometimes, depending on your situation, you can end up listening to a lot less music. And I kind of was, but not. I mean, I don't know. I felt good about myself listening to less music. It wasn't a problem. But then when this album came out, I've been listening a little more to music. It's really nice, man. Like,
yeah,
it opens up a whole world, and there's something in there, right? There's something going on in there. I don't know what it is.
No, I don't either. And people don't understand me when they see me listen to it, and like, what the hell's wrong with this guy? Like, what is there a snake in his pants? Is there like a evil spirit in his shoulders? What is going on? But yeah, no, I totally get it, because I mean, I attribute podcasts a little bit, family life, just getting older, like when I was younger, there would never be a day where I would even dream about getting in my car and driving to silence. But now I tend to do that more than I ever have. Like I will drive with either a podcast or silence. And sometimes I'm just like, I'm not in the mood for music. And that almost blows my mind because music was my life too. Like I picked up a guitar because of Tool, and the only style I play is drop D, chuggy, that's what I play when I pick up my guitar. So I was in the same boat. Like I started looking in the mirror like, damn it, I became that guy that's stuck in his generation. Like new music comes out and I'm like, that's garbage. Like it's just not any good. And
well,
then,
it just so happens it actually is garbage though.
It really is. There's just like it's sad. Like we do the reaction channel, and like when a band that I know brings out a song, like the other day, it's like Bush has a new single. I'm like, okay, well, I was kind of into Bush then. I put the single on, I'm like, that's crap. The Strokes got a new song. Sweet. I love the Strokes. Put it on. That's crap. I'm like, man,
Wow.
what's wrong with me? I cannot get into any band's new music. And then luckily Fear Inoculum comes to save me. And the new Pearl Jam. Don't know if you're a Pearl Jam fan. That album is good.
Oh, real? What's the name of the album?
Gigaton.
Gigaton. Okay, yeah. So I was into them early on. Like I remember when what's their second album?
Versus?
Yeah, Versus. I remember when that came out. I was actually living in the city. I mean, I was working in the studios at that time, I believe, or it was right before then. But yeah, they were great. Their first couple albums were just great. But I lost touch. They had that Vitology came out, and that had a couple. That had a lot of good songs, but like I resonated a bit less to Vitology. And then after that, I literally don't even know what they put out.
Yeah, and that's what happened with them. I mean, that's par for the course.
Okay.
So,
but Gigaton,
yeah. So they, I'm right there with you. Like I was into them pretty deeply all the way through Vitology, and then completely lost touch because they just didn't sound the same for a long time. And this new album, like they didn't rewind the clock and put out another 10 or Verses, but they're a little angrier than they've been for a long time, and they also got a lot more complex, I guess, than they have in a long time, and they actually made quite a triumphant return. That one's been stuck in my rotation for the last couple weeks. Really, really good, but
interesting.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to mention too, especially with Pneuma, or using Pneuma as an example, the lyrics of Pneuma are very spiritual.
Yes.
And for me, I think it's been an important part of Tool that the lyrics are very deep and spiritual quite often. Not always, but quite often. That means a lot to me because they're not only producing great music and melodies and writing lyrics, but there's actually a deeper meaning. And I practice spirituality in my life for the past, 17 years, whatever. So like, and I really value that. And I'm not talking about religion. I'm talking about spirituality, right?
Yeah.
So that part of Tool, the fact that Tool talks about spirituality and gives certain concepts and stuff, that I think that's a big reason why I love Tool. How about you?
Yeah, no, yeah, it really is. Like for me to say I can pinpoint what spirituality, where their spiritual roads take them, I'm not going to put words in their mouth, but like I've definitely become more spiritual over the years, so that resonates with me quite a bit. I mean, just the greater meaning in life overall, I guess. So yeah, that's one of the things that's also really been great about Tool over the years is whether you agree with every lyric or not, it's almost impossible for it to not resonate with you in some way because there's so many interpretations. And, I feel pretty good after combing through the lyrics and singing along with what they're talking about, because no matter how they used to be viewed, of course, the media any band that sounds like them or has that dark sound or talks about some of the subjects that Maynard's talked about. Like, of course, they jump straight to evil, but like I feel like there's a lot of really good positivity in their music right now. So
Yeah.
you just really got to think about it when you're listening to it. It's not. They definitely, to me, do not come from an evil place. It's definitely a spiritual, positive place that they come from.
Yeah, and when it's not spiritual and positive, one other thing that Maynard does is he just cuts through all the BS, like in the song "Hooker with a Penis."
Yeah.
When he talks about the guy who came up to him and said he was an OG fan from back in the old days, and then he said he thought that Tool was selling out, and Maynard just very playfully says, "Yeah, we did sell out. Where everyone sells out. Like what?" And you bought our record, so we, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
it's just he confronts things head on sometimes, and that's refreshing to me, and I think that's refreshing to everyone, right?
Yeah, I mean, I pride myself on being very blunt and direct, while somehow keeping away from just being rude or mean, and that's kind of how I see Maynard at times too. It's like, listen, like I'm not trying to be an asshole, but you need to be put in your place at the moment. And this is the way it actually is. So,
yeah, I didn't realize how much I love that song, but I just recently saw someone react to that song, and it's just great.
Yeah, I'm going to have to watch it. That's one of the few songs I've not watched anyone, react to. I know me and you both talked about the reaction videos being a little addictive at the moment. There's just something fun about seeing people listen to that. But yeah, no, it's great. And there's just so many reasons. And I had a feeling doing this episode with you, like it would just be a nice, smooth, easy convo. No notes on my end, just a little bit of Tool talk. Like I could tell, you were a pretty big fan. I'm like, this will be pretty easy to talk about this album and Tool and, just what this album kind of means as far as our lives go. Like, I kind of got down to the baseline of it at the end there. Like, music was kind of fading for me. Sounds like it was kind of fading for you, at least listening, like maybe not playing or, I dive back into the old stuff that I love quite a bit, but sometimes I'm like, I need a break. That way I don't overplay this older stuff that I love, and Tool comes along to save the day. So.
Yeah, and I want to actually, one other thing I was thinking about is Adam Jones. I mean, he's an artist, and I have a feeling that I have a feeling that Adam Jones, because I know he designs some of the artwork, and like we didn't even talk about the fact that the packaging of Fear Inoculum with the little video, it's like a double CD with or not a double CD, but it's like a CD packaging that has a video screen on it with a little battery embedded in the case.
That battery, by the way, mine's still not dead.
Oh, really? I actually played that a few times, but I haven't really played it since then. I mean, I thought that was a really cool thing to do, a cool way to release the album, and I happily bought it because I just want to support them and
Same.
and I love whatever they do anyway. So, but yeah, I mean, it was great, and so I think Adam Jones, and this is just a feeling, is that he I don't know if he's the most artistic person of them all, or maybe it's a combination, but I have a feeling he's at the heart of something. And because look, all music like this, it's guitar-based music.
Right.
The guitar is the main instrument, period.
Yep. And
so like it's all on, most of it's on him, like right off the bat, so he, and yeah, I just think the way he, I think sort of, I don't think he directs the band or anything, but like, I have a feeling like a lot of stuff they want to do, like I'm just, this is total conjecture, but I have a feeling like he's the one who kind of is steering the ship, maybe.
I feel
artistically.
I feel that way. I feel like, I do feel like it starts with him. Like I really do. Like I think it starts with him, and Justin and Danny work around the fact, and then Maynard comes in at the end. So yeah, I mean, I'm with you there because he's the one that, has done special effects on Jurassic Park and Predator, and he's got a highly artistic background. So
Right.
and so yeah, I think you're pretty spot on there. Of course, we have no proof or anything
Right.
like that, but to me, it does revolve around Adam Jones. So,
And even the new album, it's like, I mean, how many guitar riffs can you write? Like, I don't know if you play guitar or any instrument, even drums. How many drum beats can you make up? But like, to have these guys after this long and after putting out this many great albums come out with an album like Fear Inoculum, in a way, it's quite amazing, right? That they're still cranking at that high level, right?
Yeah, it's very amazing because it's there's only one tool and there's only one sound really. Like, it's evolved, it's progressed, but if they changed it up too drastically, it would be totally weird. And they've somehow they have changed it up minimally from album to album, in my opinion, and it's just minimal enough to where God, what's the words I'm looking for? They change it up just enough to make it fresh, but it's still familiar. And for him to be able to do that over the course of all these 7, 8, 9, 10-minute songs, I mean, that's a marathon. Like that, doing a song of that length, like, you basically have to take their catalog and multiply it by 2, because that's what they give you on one song is 2 to 3 songs. So for him to be able to do this and come up with a way to make it fresh and new, and it's quite amazing.
Yeah, I mean, Tempest, the guitar in Tempest, if there's so many parts.
Never heard him do anything like that.
The solos are absolutely tremendous, but then just the riffs, like, some of those riffs are absolutely disgusting. Like,
Oh yeah.
I wish I could write one riff like that in my entire life.
Mm-hmm.
It's just,
Yeah.
I mean, deep and disgusting in a good way, of course.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, I've seen Dave Grohl talking about their new album and how he's got this riff that is 25 years old, and he's so excited to release it. And I'm like, I'm excited for it too, Dave, but if it comes anywhere close to any of Adam Jones's riffs, I'll be shocked, because that's where it's at. So, all right. Well, Chris, I appreciate you coming on and doing this with me. I didn't want to keep you too long, not much more than an hour. Of course, us Tool fans, we could probably stretch this out until this pandemic is over if we wanted to.
I thought we were going to go song by song, section by section here.
Riff by riff, drum beat by drum beat. That maybe we'll save that one for the next album.
Yeah, or like the 5-year anniversary or something.
Yeah, 5-year anniversary. We'll pop that on and stream it while we're talking. We'll kind of do a reaction, but it'll be, if you've got that long drive from California to New York, this is the podcast for you.
There you go.
Yeah. But yeah, thank you, Chris. It was so awesome to be on the Podcast Engineering Show. Awesome to hang out with another Tool fan, from one area to the other. And it's in my area, especially when people in my hometown talk about Tool, they talk about me because I'm that crazy Tool fanatic. Like, oh yeah, that's Barker's favorite band. That's, I'm in an area where everybody's jamming Luke Bryan. Just not a lot of Tool fans. So when I get the opportunity to talk to one, definitely makes me happy. So thanks for making my Sunday better.
Well, Jeremy, thank you, man. This has been really fun for me. Equally as fun, if not more. I'm totally a big Tool fan, and I really appreciate chatting with you about it, man. Thank you again.
Thank you, Chris. And I look forward to any opportunity we get in the future to talk about something else. But apparently in 5 years, we're going to do that 7.5 hour long podcast riff by riff. So I'm looking forward to that.
Cool, man.
All right. Thank you guys for listening. Go check out Chris's podcast. Go check out, if you want to get into podcast engineering, if you want to start a podcast, Chris, you have a program.
Yeah. Well, my program is more for people who want to learn how to produce really professional podcast audio. It's actually very specific and it's very, very in depth. So it's not for the average person, but yeah, anyone who wants to know how to produce professional audio for podcasts, that's what I teach.
And this is maybe the perfect time for them to dive into that because we are stuck. So,
yeah.
And class is in session, what, April 20th?
28th.
28th, 1 day away from my birthday.
Oh, cool.
Very cool. So yeah, go check out his podcast Engineering Show. And if you do have interest in producing high quality podcasts, I can't think of a better place to go. So there you go. Go see Chris. You guys can create a Tempest together.
Nice.
All right, man. Thank you. Have a good evening. And you guys come back for the next episode, which I promise won't be about Tool. See you later.
See y'all.